The girl in the dust. The sun was dying behind the ruins when Jalen saw her. He had been walking for hours through broken steel and dead machines. The old battlefield stretched for miles, filled with the bones of a war no one remembered anymore. Only scavengers like him came here now, looking for scrap, fuel, or something they could sell for food. But Jalen didn't expect to find a person. He almost stepped over her. She lay curled in the dust, half buried under a piece of shattered armor. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing. Strange metal cuffs were on her wrists. Her face was bruised, her lips dry and cracked. For a moment, Jalen thought she was dead. Then she moved. A weak breath escaped her mouth. Her fingers twitched. Jalen dropped to one knee and gently rolled the metal off her. She was light. Too light. Like she hadn't eaten in days. "Hey," he said softly. "Can you hear me?" Her eyelids opened just a little. Her eyes were bright violet but full of fear. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Jalen pulled a small water pouch from his belt and lifted her head. "Drink. Just a little." She sipped, coughed, then drank more. Her hands shook. "What happened to you?" Jalen asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked around with panic in her eyes. Her mouth moved slowly. Did it stop?" "What?" Jalen asked. The light," she whispered. "Did you stop it?" He didn't understand. Before he could ask more, her body went limp again. Jalen looked around. The wind picked up, throwing dust across the wreckage. Night was coming. The battlefield wasn't safe after dark. Wild drones sometimes woke up. Worse things too. He had a choice. Leave her, or take her. Jalen sighed. "I must be going mad." He picked her up gently. She was barely taller than a child, though clearly older. Maybe a teenager. Maybe more. Her skin was warm but fading. She needed shelter fast. His camp wasn't far, hidden beneath an old shuttle frame. It had a power core, a heater, and sealed walls to keep out poison dust. He laid her on a makeshift bed and checked her cuffs. They were made of advanced alloy, locked tight. Not normal bindings. More like something used for prisoners. Or weapons. He tried to scan them with his tool, but the screen glitched. Static filled the air. "Weird," he muttered. "Who are you?" He looked closer. Under the dust on her back, something glowed. He gently pulled her shirt aside. There it was. A mark. A symbol made of light, etched into her skin. It pulsed slowly, as if alive. Like a machine trying to wake up. Jalen stepped back. "What the hell?" Suddenly, the heater in his shelter buzzed and shut down. Then the lights flickered. The power cord dimmed. The scanner in Jalen's hand sparked and died. He turned toward the girl. The glowing mark was brighter now. No, Jalen said, backing up. He grabbed his old blaster and pointed it at her, unsure why. Then her eyes opened again. She stared at him, not afraid, just sad. "You shouldn't have stopped it," she said. Her voice was soft, almost too soft. "What are you?" Jalen asked. "I don't know anymore," she whispered. "Were they chasing you?" "Not chasing," she said. "Containing." Jalen lowered the blaster. He had seen a lot of strange things in the ruins. Broken androids, forgotten warbots, even old cloning vats. But never someone like her. "What's your name?" he asked. She blinked slowly. "Zuri," she said. "I think. I'm Jalen. I'm just a scavenger. You should have left me." "Yeah, maybe," he replied. "But now you're here, and I need to know something." She looked at him. "Am I in danger?" he asked. Zuri didn't answer, but the mark on her back glowed again, and outside, in the silence, something deep underground began to hum, like it had heard her voice, like it had been waiting. The strange symbol. Jalen couldn't sleep, even though Zuri lay still, her breathing soft and steady. The symbol on her back kept glowing every few minutes, faint and slow, like a pulse. It was not a tattoo, not a scar. It looked alive. He sat on a crate across the room staring at her, his blaster in hand. He didn't want to point it at her again, but deep inside he couldn't shake the fear. Something was wrong with this girl, and she didn't act like someone who had been rescued. She acted like someone who had been unleashed. By morning, the shelter's power was fully dead. The solar panels outside hadn't charged anything overnight. The water purifier stopped working. Even the emergency beacon he used for backup supplies was dead. Zuri hadn't moved much. Her eyes fluttered open only once, and when they did, Jalen saw something strange. Her pupils were shifting, like they were scanning invisible symbols in the air. He leaned forward. "Zuri," he said quietly. "Can you hear me?" She blinked, then looked at him. But before she could answer, the ground trembled. A faint vibration. Soft, but steady. "Quake?" Jalen muttered. "No, not here. This sector never shook." He grabbed his scanner and tried to activate it again. Nothing. Just static. Zuri sat up slowly, placing one hand on the floor. "They found me," she said, her voice flat. "Who?" Jalen asked. "Not who. What?" Outside, the wind picked up fast. Dust clouds rose from the battlefield, and through the thick, orange haze, 3 silver drones hovered into view. They had no markings, no lights, no warning sounds, just quiet movement. Each one scanned the ground, then stopped near the shelter. "Stay here," Jalen said, grabbing his blaster. He slipped, through the hatch, crouching behind a rusted panel. He'd seen drones before, but these weren't normal patrol bots. They looked clean, advanced, too clean for a forgotten war zone. He aimed carefully. One of the drones suddenly twisted in midair, facing directly toward his shelter's entrance. "Crap," he whispered. Then it moved, fast. Before Jalen could fire, the drone struck the door with a sharp energy blast. The hatch flew open. Inside, Zuri stood facing it, eyes glowing faintly. The drone hovered, scanning her, but didn't shoot. Jalen rushed in and aimed. "Back off," he shouted. But the drone ignored him. Instead, it made a strange sound and a beep-click hum, then it self-destructed. The explosion knocked both of them backward. Metal pieces flew across the room, but somehow Zuri wasn't hurt. She looked up at Jalen. "I told you," she said. "They weren't coming to kill me. They came to make sure I was still contained." Jalen coughed, brushing ash off his jacket. "What the hell does that even mean?" Zuri didn't answer. He pointed at the broken drone. "You know what that was?" "Yes," she said. "Care to explain?" "It was a guardian, a kind of jailer, built to monitor energy sources that shouldn't exist, like the symbol on your back." She turned away. "How long were you locked up?" Jalen asked. "I don't remember," she said softly. "But long enough that the world forgot I was there." "And why were you in chains?" Zuri looked at him now. Her expression was unreadable. "Because someone once tried to use me to wake something worse." As Jalen processed her words, Tekken's old warning flashed in his mind. Stories from scavenger chats about energy echoes left behind in the war zones. No one ever believed them, but now, maybe they were real. He walked to the remains of the drone and pulled out the black cube from its core. A tiny light blinked inside. "This was sending a signal," he muttered. Zuri stepped forward. "Yes, and now they know I'm no longer contained." "Who's they?" She closed her eyes. "The architects. Never heard of them." "You shouldn't have," she said. "No one who remembers them lives long." Jalen stared at her. This girl had gone from helpless to terrifying in a single night. But even so, he didn't want to leave her. Not yet. They packed quickly and left the shelter. The drones were just the beginning. Zuri warned that something bigger was coming. They traveled across the old desert, heading toward the ridge where Jalen had seen old human towers buried in sand. Zuri said there was something there. "I don't know what exactly," she told him, "but my memory reacts when I look at that place like a voice calling." "You have memory gaps?" "No, I have memory locks. Someone sealed parts of me, not just my mind, my very design." Jalen stopped walking. Wait, he said slowly. What do you mean design? Zuri looked at him. I don't think I was born like normal people. As they reached the edge of the ridge, a large structure appeared. Half sunken in the sand, it looked like a temple made of metal and bone. Sharp towers, strange curved walls, glowing rings floating above it. Zuri stared at it with wide eyes. This is it, she whispered. This is where I begin, and where they ended me. Before Jalen could speak, the wind howled loudly, and on the far end of the ruins, a huge shadow stepped forward. Not a drone, not a soldier, a walking machine, 6 meters tall, with 6 legs, and a central eye glowing red. It scanned the area, and locked on Zuri. Run! Jalen shouted. Zuri didn't move. She whispered, If I run, you die. Her eyes flashed violet, and for the first time, Jalen saw something terrifying. The air around her bent slightly, like gravity itself was listening to her. The machine fired, but the blast never hit. It bent away, curved midair, and struck a rock instead. Zuri raised her hand, and the sand lifted in a wave. Go, she said, not without you. Jalen shouted, but she didn't answer. She walked toward the machine, and Jalen suddenly realized maybe she wasn't the one who needed saving. Maybe he was, hunted by shadows. The machine roared. Its 6 metal legs crushed old stones as it moved toward Zuri. A cannon on its back charged with a deep humming sound. Red lights blinked along its arms. Jalen had never seen anything like it. Not in all his years scavenging the ruins. He fired at it with his blaster. The shots bounced off its armor like pebbles. Zuri, he shouted, get back. But she didn't run. She stood calmly, facing the monster. Then, she raised both hands. The ground under her feet shifted, not cracked, not exploded, shifted like it was responding to her will. The machine fired. A bolt of plasma screamed through the air. Zuri didn't move. The bolt bent again, just like before, and missed her completely. This time, it hit part of the ancient tower behind her. The metal walls groaned and fell, covering the machine's legs in rubble. The monster stopped moving. Steam rose from its core. Jalen ran toward Zuri. What the hell was that? She turned to him slowly, her eyes glowing violet again. It tried to reset me, she said softly. Reset you? Jalen asked, breathing hard. Like a machine? Zuri looked down at her own hands. I don't know what I am anymore. They didn't stay. The destroyed walker wouldn't be alone. Others would come. As they traveled deeper into the old ruins, Zuri told him more. I remember faces, she said, but not names. What kind of faces? Jalen asked. Scientists, soldiers, and a human voice. Always one voice talking to me gently, like a father. From Earth? He asked. Maybe, she said. But the strange part is, he spoke in my dreams before I was ever awake. You were made? Jalen asked. Zuri nodded slowly. Part of me was. Jalen looked ahead. He didn't speak for a long time, but inside something was growing. A question he was too afraid to ask. They reached a small chamber deep under the sand. Zuri said it was once a testing site, where they brought her kind for control experiments. Inside were machines older than anything Jalen had ever seen. Alien symbols carved into glass walls, energy crystals still glowing faintly, and at the center, a chair, large, silver, shaped like an open flower. Zuri froze when she saw it. I know this place, she whispered. This is where they turned me off. Jalen stepped forward. Why? Would they do that? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the chair and sat down. The room changed. Blue lights woke in the walls. A soft voice filled the air. Subject: Hybrid protocol active. Unlocking memory core 3. Zuri's head fell. Back eyes wide open, Jalen stepped forward, ready to pull her out, but a shield of light surrounded the chair. "Zuri," he shouted. Her body shook. Memories were returning. He couldn't see what she saw, but he could hear her whispering. "I was built to connect, to something bigger, to a weapon, an ancient I." Her voice became quiet. Then still, the light faded. Zuri blinked and looked at him. "Jalen," she said, her voice shaking. "You weren't just there when they made me." His breath caught. "What? You were part of it. That's not possible. Your DNA, it was used to design the first control host, the template. That's why the machines don't attack you. That's why I felt safe with you." Jalen took a step back. "Are you saying I helped build you?" "Not you, but someone with your blood. Maybe your ancestor. Maybe you, with your memories erased." Jalen grabbed his head. "No, I was just a soldier. I fought in the last war." Zuri stood up. "Or maybe you were sent here to find me." They didn't get more time to think. A loud sound filled the chamber. Metal boots. Figures walked out of the shadows. 6 of them, tall, armored, wearing silver suits with no faces. Each one pointed a weapon. Zuri stood in front of Jalen. The lead soldier stepped forward. "Subject Zuri. You are ordered to return to containment." Zuri said nothing. "The human with you is a corrupted match," the voice continued. "Terminate him." Jalen raised his blaster, but he knew it wouldn't help. The soldiers didn't fire. They waited for Zuri. "They want you to decide," Jalen said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "Why?" "Because part of me is still linked to their system. I can give the kill command or refuse it." "Then refuse it," Jalen said. Zuri turned to him. "If I refuse, they will take me instead." Jalen stepped forward. "Then we'll fight. Together." Zuri looked back at the soldiers and whispered one word. "No." The room exploded with energy. Not fire. Not light. Gravity. The walls bent. The metal cracked. The soldiers were slammed into the ground. They couldn't move. Zuri screamed, not in pain but in power. Jalen felt the floor rise under his feet. Then, silence. The soldiers were gone. Only Zuri stood, shaking. You could have killed them all," Jalen said. "I didn't," she whispered. "Why?" She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Because if I do, I become what they made me to be." Jalen walked to her, gently held her arm. "You're more than that, Zuri. You're not a weapon, not to me." She looked up at him. "Then what am I?" He didn't know how to answer. But one thing was clear. This girl, this being, was more powerful than anything he had ever known. And yet, she was still afraid of herself. And maybe, just maybe, so was he. The locked memory Zuri didn't speak for a long time after the fight. She sat near the broken silver chair, staring at the floor. Her body still trembled from the power she released. Small pieces of stone floated near her skin, refusing to fall, like gravity no longer obeyed the rules around her. Jalen watched her from a distance. He didn't know what to say. Part of him still felt like a soldier, trained, ready, cold when needed. But another part, the human part, felt something deeper. Fear, not of Zuri, but of the truth she carried. And the truth she had just said, that he was somehow part of her creation. They moved again before night fell. Zuri said the soldiers weren't the only ones who would come. "Once a lock is broken," she whispered, "others feel it. The system wakes. More of them will find us." "Do we run?" Jalen asked. She looked at him. "No. We go where the truth is buried." They headed south, across the dead stone flats, where old command bunkers were rumored to be hidden under, glassed over earth. Jalen had never gone this far before. Too many stories of ghosts and traps left from the final war. But Zuri led the way with quiet confidence. They reached a ridge by morning. Beyond it, a deep valley of black stone waited. Burned trees, twisted metal, shattered steel towers rising from the ground like broken fingers. This was a research zone, Zuri said. Deep core level, off limits to civilians. You remember? This place? Jalen asked. Only in pieces, she said, and we'll find what there. Zuri looked toward the center of the valley. My locked memory, the one that was sealed last, the one they didn't want me to ever reach. They moved carefully. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Even though the sun burned above, the shadows here felt heavy, thick like old air trapped for centuries. They reached a door buried under collapsed steel. Zuri placed her hand on the surface. A circle of light pulsed from her skin. The door opened slowly, with a sound like a sigh. Inside was a narrow hallway, walls covered in faded human writing and strange alien symbols side by side. Jalen could read only a few words. Project Hybrid, Omega Protocol, human access only. He frowned. This place was built by Earth Command. Zuri nodded. With alien science. At the end of the hallway, they entered a small chamber. A single tube stood in the center. Inside was a pod, and inside that pod, another girl, or something that looked like one, skin pale blue, like Zuri. Veins, glowing faintly, but this one was still, not breathing, not moving. Frozen. Zuri stepped forward, shaking. This was the original, she whispered. The first version. Jalen's mouth went dry. You mean, you're not the first? No, she said. I'm the only one who lived. On the wall beside the pod was a screen. Still working, Jalen wiped dust off it and pressed a button. Recording played. A man appeared on screen. Human. Older. Gray hair. Military jacket. His voice was clear and firm. Project Omega was created to protect the galaxy from future threats. We took DNA from all species, human, alien, hybrid, to build the perfect being, the key. But the results were unstable, too much power, too little control. We sealed the first subject in cryosleep. The second, Zuri, showed signs of emotional development. We hoped maybe she could be better. If you're hearing this, then one of them woke up. And that means the locks are failing, and the system is watching. We are sorry. The screen went dark. Zuri stepped back, her breathing heavy. They built us like weapons, not people. You're not a weapon, Jalen said. Then why do I feel like one? She asked. The room shook slightly. A soft humming noise filled the air. Jalen looked around. What now? Zuri pointed to the far wall. There's a core link here. If I connect to it, I'll get everything, my full memory, the truth. And what happens if you do, he asked. I'll either know who I really am, she paused, or the system will kill me. Jalen stepped closer. Then we leave it. But Zuri looked at him with clear, glowing eyes. You don't get it, Jalen. This isn't about me anymore. What do you mean? You saw what I can do. Gravity, energy. Thought control? Yeah, he said. That's nothing, she whispered. Nothing? They didn't just build me to protect, they built me to unlock something. Jalen stepped back. What? A sleeping AI, she said. Older than human memory, buried deep in the galaxy, one they couldn't control. Why would anyone want to unlock that? They believed it could bring order to everything, or destroy everything, Jalen whispered, and you're the key. Zuri nodded. If I die, it stays asleep. But if you live, Jalen said. It wakes, she finished. The silence was loud. So what now? He asked. Zuri walked toward the glowing terminal and placed her hand on it. The chamber filled with light. Symbols ran across the walls. The floor began to hum. Jalen raised his blaster, unsure who to point it at. Zuri's body lifted slightly, into the air, and her voice whispered words he didn't understand. Then suddenly, everything stopped. She dropped to the ground. Jalen rushed forward and caught her. Zuri, are you? She opened her eyes, But they were not violet anymore. They were glowing white. "Jalen," she said slowly. "I remember everything." He stared. "And?" Zuri reached for his hand. "You're the one who made the choice," she whispered. "What choice?" "You told them not to erase me. You asked them to let me grow." "Me?" Jalen said. "I don't remember that. Because they wiped your memory after the war." Jalen sat back, stunned. "You were the one human who believed I could be more than a weapon," she said. "You're the reason I'm alive." The truth he never knew. Jalen didn't know what to say. Zuri stood in front of him, glowing faintly. Her voice was calm, but her words hit him like thunder. "You saved me once, Jalen. Not now. Before." He stepped back slowly, confused. "I don't remember any of that." "You're not supposed to," she said gently. "They took your memories. They needed someone they could control, someone who wouldn't go looking." "I was a soldier," he whispered. Zuri shook her head. "You were a creator." The light inside the ancient bunker began to fade. Systems shut down one by one, like the place had finished its job. Zuri sat, down near the glowing tube where the first version of her still rested. "She died before she could speak," Zuri said. "But they kept her here to remind themselves that failure was dangerous." "And you?" Jalen asked. "I wasn't made for war," she said. "I was made for something else, something they couldn't explain." He looked at her. "I don't understand. How can I be connected to all this? I've lived my life as a scavenger, broke, alone, hunted. I've never done anything special." Zuri smiled softly. "Sometimes the most powerful choices are the quiet ones." She touched the side of the cryotube gently. "When the others wanted to end me," she said, "you stood in front of them. You said, 'Let her be more.'" Jalen sat beside her, still stunned. "How do you know it was me?" "Because your DNA was the access code. Your blood opened this bunker. Your voice was the one they stored in my mind, so that I'd always remember trust." For a long time, neither of them said a word. The silence felt heavy, like the air had something more to say. Then Zuri looked up sharply. "They're coming," she said. "Who?" "Not soldiers, not machines." "Then what?" She stood. "Something worse." Outside the bunker, the skies turned dark, even though the sun was high. From the edge of the horizon, a strange shape approached, floating, silent, huge. Not a ship, not a beast, an ancient AI vessel. The one Zuri had been connected to all along. It had awakened. "We triggered it," Zuri said. "When I unlocked the memory core, it felt me. It's been waiting for the key to speak." "Can you stop it?" Jalen asked. "No," she said, "but I can talk to it." "Zuri, if I don't go, it will destroy everything near it. It doesn't understand mercy. It only knows code. And what if it sees you as a threat?" Zuri looked at him calmly. "Then I become what they built me to be." They climbed out of the ruins and stood on the open rocks as the giant structure hovered overhead. Light beams scanned the ground. Wind howled as gravity shifted. Then one beam stopped on Zuri. She stepped forward. Jalen tried to follow, but she turned and placed a hand on his chest. "Stay here." "No," he said. "Not again. You already saved me once. Now let me save you." Her voice cracked a little. "I won't let them take everything." "You're not theirs," he said. "But I am still part of them," she whispered. The A's voice filled the air. It wasn't spoken. It vibrated inside their bones. Key recognized. Protocol awakening. Purpose. Control. Verify target. Zuri's body lifted off the ground. Her eyes turned white again. The wind circled her. She replied aloud, in a voice not entirely her own. "This unit denies destruction protocol. This unit chooses life." The AI paused. "Life is unmeasured. Disorder. Pain." Zuri's voice grew stronger. "Life is also choice. Love. Growth. This unit is defective. This unit is free," she said. Light exploded from her chest. pure, pulsing energy. It flowed upward into the AI vessel. Jalen covered his eyes. The wind stopped. The sky cleared. The AI floated silently for a moment, then rose higher, higher, and vanished into the clouds. Zuri fell to her knees. Jalen ran to her, held her tight. She was breathing. Barely. "You did it," he whispered. She nodded slowly. "I gave it something new to think about." "What?" "Hope?" They rested in silence for a while, watching the sky. No more machines came, no more weapons fired. The war, at least for now, had passed. "Zuri," Jalen said quietly. "What happens now?" She looked up at him. "Now, we find the others." "Others?" "I wasn't the only one designed," she said. "There are more like me. Hidden. Lost. Forgotten. What if they don't remember?" She stood slowly. "Then we help them. Like you helped me." And deep across the stars, the great eye watched quietly, for the first time, not calculating, but learning. And the human who once forgot, now remembered who he really was. Betrayal and choice. The wind had settled. The sky was calm again. But Zuri was not. She stood near the cliff's edge, her eyes watching the clouds where the ancient A-ship had disappeared. Her voice had stopped the destruction. Her choice had changed everything. But peace never lasts. As Jalen gathered supplies inside the old bunker, he heard a strange sound. Not machines. Not drones. Footsteps. Boots. Human. Well-trained. He grabbed his blaster and rushed to the door. Outside, 6 figures stood in black armor. No markings, no symbols. They weren't from any known faction. And at the center of them, a woman stepped forward. Tall, sharp-eyed, her voice calm and cold. "Subject Zuri," she said, "and the traitor who protected her." Zuri didn't move. "Who are you?" "Earth Division 11, the woman said. "The last loyal command." Jalen narrowed his eyes. Division 11 was shut down after the war. "Officially, yes," she replied. "Unofficially, we kept the key alive." Zuri tensed. "You mean me?" "You were never meant to survive this long," the woman said. "Your purpose was to unlock the AI, then be erased." "I made a different choice," Zuri replied. "That's the problem," the woman said. "You were made to obey, not choose." She turned to Jalen. "We can restore your memory, your full past, everything they took from you. Come with us, and we'll make you whole again." Jalen's hands shook slightly. He didn't speak. "Don't let this thing," she said, pointing to Zuri, "distract you from your real path. She's a failed prototype." Zuri looked down, not angry, but hurt, deeply. Jalen stepped forward. "You're lying." "Am I?" the woman said. "Your blood was the base model. You were a top-level researcher. Do you really want to stay in the dark?" "I've seen enough to know who she is," he said. "And who I want to be." The woman's smile faded. "Very well," she said. Coldly, she raised her hand. "Take the girl." The soldiers moved forward. Zuri raised her arms, not to attack, but to protect Jalen. He pulled his blaster, but they were outnumbered. "Zuri, run," he shouted. "I won't leave you," she said. One of the soldiers fired a warning shot. The ground exploded near their feet. Jalen grabbed Zuri's wrist and ran toward the ridge. Shots followed. The sky filled with smoke. They slid down a slope of broken stone, losing grip, barely staying ahead. Behind them, the soldiers kept coming. "We can't outrun them forever," Jalen gasped. "I know," Zuri said. They reached an old outpost, half buried and silent. Inside, a small generator still hummed. Zuri sat near the center console. "What are you doing?" Jalen asked. "There's a way to stop them," she said, "but you're not going to like it." "Tell me." She took a deep breath. "If I connect myself directly to the AI again, I can send out a command, one that disables anything linked To the original control code. The soldiers? He asked. Yes, their armor, their weapons, even their minds. But what's the price? I'll burn, she said softly. Too much energy. I won't survive it. Jalen froze. Then, we don't do it. They'll keep coming, she said. They'll hurt more people. They'll find others like me. I don't care, he said, voice shaking. You matter. Zuri touched his face. You were the first human who looked at me like a person, she said. That gift gave me everything. Jalen clenched his fists. There has to be another way. Just then, the roof exploded. The soldiers dropped through ropes, shouting commands. Zuri stood, arms raised, but she didn't attack. Not yet. The woman from Division 11 entered through the smoke. You're surrounded, she said. No more running, no more lies. Zuri looked at Jalen. He looked back at her and said, Then let's end this together. Zuri stepped toward the console. The woman raised her gun. Stop right there. But Jalen stepped in front of her. You shoot her, you shoot me. Then so be it, the woman said coldly. She fired. But the bullet stopped mid-air. Gravity bent. Zuri's eyes glowed again. No more, she said. She pressed her hand to the console. Light filled the room. The soldiers screamed, their suits locking, their weapons melting. The woman fell to her knees. What are you? She gasped. Zuri didn't answer. The light grew stronger. Jalen reached for her, but she was already fading, not dying, transforming. The energy turned her body to light. Her voice echoed inside the room. Jalen, I am more than a weapon now. I am a message. Tell them, tell the galaxy. We can choose who we become. And then she was gone. The light faded. Only silence remained. Jalen dropped to his knees. Alone. Again. But not the same. Never the same. What he chose. Dust floated in the air where Zuri had stood. Jalen didn't move. He stared at the glowing marks left on the floor, the last traces of her light. His chest ached, not just from the battle, but from the silence she left behind. The soldiers who survived were frozen in place, still breathing but disconnected from their systems. Their minds had been cut off from the command chain. Division 11 was no more. Jalen stood slowly. The room was still warm from Zuri's power. He walked outside into the broken sunlight. The sky above was clear again, the darkness gone. Even the strange pressure in the air had faded. She had done it. She stopped the war machine. She saved him. She saved them all. But she was gone. He spent hours alone, wandering the ridge, listening to the wind, feeling like something inside him had cracked wide open. Then he saw it. On a stone wall near the cliff where Zuri once stood, something was carved into the metal, not by hand, by energy, a soft, glowing symbol, the same one that had always marked her back. But under it, 3 simple words. I choose peace. Jalen touched the mark, and for the first time a memory returned. He saw himself, younger, wearing a clean uniform, standing in front of a glowing tank. Inside it floated Zuri, smaller, her eyes still closed. A voice beside him said, This one is too strong, we should shut her down. But Jalen replied, Give her a chance. He gasped as the memory ended. His eyes burned with tears. She was right. He had saved her once, and she saved him twice. Weeks passed. Jalen buried the broken tech. He destroyed the last active codes. He erased the location of the bunker from every map. But he kept the symbol. He wore it on his shoulder. Not as a badge, not as a warning, but as a reminder. People started to find him. Other survivors, escaped hybrids, abandoned war children, even former soldiers who had left the system behind. They came not because of power, but because of the story. A human who protected the impossible. An alien girl who gave up her life to stop destruction, and they asked him the same thing every time. Was she real? He never gave them the full answer. Instead, He built a shelter, a quiet place, a home, and when the stars above turned red with danger again, he answered every call, not because he was a soldier, but because he remembered. Many years later, a young girl sat by a small fire. She was not human, not fully. Her skin was soft blue, her eyes violet, and the mark on her back pulsed. Gently in the dark, beside her sat an old man, tired but strong, Jalen. She asked him, "What happened to the first of us?" Jalen looked up at the stars and smiled. "She chose peace," he said, "and gave us all a chance to do the same." The girl leaned against him. "Do you think she still watches us?" He nodded. "I think she never left." Across the galaxy, in a quiet corner of the ancient AE's heart, a light glows. It does not speak, but it listens, and it waits, not as a weapon, but as a guardian, and when the time comes again, it will remember the choice made long ago.